Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Hangin with the Fellas. As always, it is 2 o'clock on Tuesday, and I'm Twana with Destiny Education and excited to be here with you. You know, have you found that it's very hard to find the right kind of women? Are you struggling to understand how all of this works together? Are you kind of getting conflicting viewpoints when you talk to people about being in relationships, especially in ones where the father is at the center? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today. In today's episode, we're talking about finding the right one. And this is not going to be just a one time episode. We're going to do this over the course of a few weeks because this is something that's really important. And the reality is that most people want to be in a relationship with someone that is a relationship of value, something where they are constantly being fed, they have things that are moving. Nobody wants to be in a bad quote unquote relationship. And so when you're walking with the Father, how exactly do you do that? Well, let's talk about that today. So let me ask this. Who was the first person that God gave life to, whose nostrils God breathed into first? Right. It was Adam. Now, understand this. God made Adam the leader. Let me explain to you what that does not mean. It does not mean that you get to walk all over your women. It doesn't mean that you get to degrade them or treat them as less than. Jesus left an example of what it looks like when a male and a female interact. One of those examples was the Samaritan woman that he saw at the well. When all the men were gone, he and she had a conversation. And when he said to her, "You've had five husbands, and the one you are with currently is not your husband," she was floored. But when he said that, he did not say that to her with judgment because what he understood are the things in her life that led up to that. And so, one of the big mistakes that, especially gentlemen, you make is that when you come at a woman, you come at her from the perspective that you are in control and her responsibility is to submit. And that's not what submission looks like. You have to first understand that submission is a choice. And therefore, you have to be someone that people can submit to. If we look at Jesus as our example, Jesus was always someone that people could submit to. He was someone who walked with humility and grace. He was not judgmental. He did not attempt to condemn people. What he did was he attempted to embrace people and to teach them how to seek after his Father. So, as a man, one of the things he has the expectation of you to do is to sit back and to be willing to teach your wife how to get where you want her to go. It's going to take time. And that's what the dating process is for. That's what the courting process is for. But let me explain to you why it's so messed up in today's age. When two people come together, male and female, and they have a sexual encounter, that sexual encounter creates a bond. You see, the only difference between friendship and marriage, or friendship and a husband and wife relationship, is the ability to consummate the relationship. And so that process of consummation is what solidifies and secures the relationship. Now, when you have this gift and you do not appreciate what you have, you end up creating a bond with someone that you don't even like. And that's where the biggest problem comes in. And so we live in this world now where people are like, oh, sleep with whomever you want, do whatever you want. Like there's not a repercussion to be paid for that. But the reality is that every day we see the problem of doing that. We see the marriages that can't stay together. We see the relationships that go deeper and further than they need to be. We see people putting up with stuff that they never would have put up with at other points in time, be it male or female, because they are involved in a sexual relationship. So, one of the things that as men, your first job to do is to decide what it is you really want out of your life. You see, as the leader of the home, you have a huge responsibility. And that responsibility is to shape the future, not only for yourself, but for your wife and your kids. And so when you're hopping into a relationship or a marriage and you haven't figured out what you want yet, how much more frustrating do you think it is for the woman that you choose who has decided to walk this walk with you? You have to know where it is you want to go. It was actually funny because I was watching an interview with Grant Cardone. And let me tell you, before Undercover Billionaire, I had zero interest in Grant Cardone. Him and his, what? I own a plane. I own a jet. I'm sorry. Was just so dumb to me. I had zero, zero interest in this man or anything he had to say. But as I watched him on Undercover Billionaire, I was really impressed at some of the things that he did. A little disturbed by some of them, but also impressed. Like there were things that this man thought of that never would have crossed my mind. So, for example, he went and negotiated with somebody to stay in a motorhome thing, right? And I was like, I never would have thought to do that. Like that would have never crossed my mind to do something like that. And so that was where he got my attention. Well, in this interview that I was watching with him, here was what he had done. He went to his wife and he said, "Honey, listen, I really want the I really want to give you everything that you need, but here's what I need you to understand. If I stop being who I am, I can't be what you need me to be." And that was probably one of the most powerful statements I have ever heard a male make to his wife. Number one, it was completely vulnerable. It was brutal. It was honest. It was an in your face comment that really told his wife where he was. And so this is one of those times that when you sit back and you talk to the person who's going to be your spouse, it's so important that you be upfront with them. But Grant already knew what it was he wanted. And while he may not have known the industry in which he wanted it, what he knew was that he did not want to struggle financially. He did not want to have hardship and that he eventually wanted to be married. And so when he reached those goals, he was ready to move on. And so, as we're talking today, gentlemen, that's one of the things that a lot of you have got to really start thinking about. You've got one life to live. When it's over and you're lying on your deathbed, if you are given the grace to actually lay back and go to bed one night and die in your sleep, what do you want your life to have looked like? What do you want it to have accomplished to mean? That's what you've got to decide. Because if you're trying to bring a partner in before you have made that decision, all you're doing is creating hardship for both she and you. And you're creating a relationship that is not sustainable. And that's one of the hardest things that many of you struggle with. How do I decide what I want? That's an interesting question. For some people, it starts by understanding what it is that you don't want. What is it that I don't want? Do I want a woman who talks to me any old kind of way? Do I want a woman who disrespects me? Do I want a woman who has no value for who I am or what I am? If you can answer those questions to begin with, then from there you can often figure out what it is that you actually want. So let me give you an example. If an individual is looking for a relationship, I'm going to give you an example because I just had a client call me with this the other day. This young man wants a relationship so badly that he's willing to just settle. And so, because he hasn't mapped out what it is that he actually wants in a relationship, what he does is he sits back and he just picks out different women. And so, when he goes through this process, what ends up happening is he finds women who are not in a place where he needs them to be because he's not in a place where he needs to be. And so as we were talking last night, because this particular client is really mature, especially for his age, one of the things he shared is that he really doesn't know how. And so I want you to understand that the Bible gives you a very clear picture of what a godly wife looks like. And it's in Proverbs 31. And you're not just going to read specific verses, you're going to read from verse 1 all the way through to verse 31 to get a clear understanding, number one, of what Lemuel's mother says to him. Understand who the wife is and what she will do for you. Because then when you find her, you will recognize her. You know, often I run into a lot of you who you want one you want a wife that's a certain way, and then you want someone in the bedroom who's a certain way. Listen, if you have that mindset, you are not ready to be a husband. To think that a woman of God is not a wild child in the bedroom is a problem that you have. That's your hang up. The fact of the matter is that women can be wild children and still be ladies. That's a reality. And if you look at your wife differently because she's too wild in the bedroom or you don't want to see her that way, then the problem is 100% yours. You've got to understand what the word says. The marriage bed is undefiled. And the thing I'm going to share with you that makes me the angriest is the number of people who sit back and act like sex is some kind of we do it on Tuesday and nobody enjoys it. If that were the case, then the Bible would not have Song of Solomon in it. And if you haven't read Song of Solomon as he talks about the luscious grapes and all the sweet honey and aromas and those things, then what's the explanation? And there are a lot of people who come up with stupid things. And I'm sorry, but there are just really lately, as I have been watching people talk, especially on YouTube and stuff, about the father and all of this, and they have all these rules that are not biblical. And then they have like 500,000 followers. And I'm like, why are you following someone who is not giving you the honest to God truth? Listen, the bedroom, gentlemen, is to have fun. Y'all need to be hanging from the chandeliers. Have a swing in there. Go bounce up and down, ride each other upside down, do flips, whatever it is that you want to do in that bedroom is what you need to be doing. But to deprive your wife of the side of her that is passionate and wild and untamed is to deprive yourself of a sex life that is undeniably phenomenal. You want to know what helps you stay at home? Since that's the thought, right? He gets bored. You want a wife who's not boring? Then let her be who she is designed to be. There's nothing wrong with a woman who's wild with her husband. I'm not talking about bringing other people into your bedroom because when you start bringing other people into your bedroom, now what you're doing is you're opening up doors for diseases and things of that nature. What I'm talking about is the rights that God has given you to have a marriage that just doesn't stop. It grows, it gets deeper, it's wilder, it's exciting, it's something that you look forward to going home to, and it's something where both of you are happy. Both of you. When you are struggling to find the right one, it's because there's something in you that's preventing it from happening. What are your hangups? That's something that's vitally important for you to know. What hangups is it that you have as a gentleman about sex, about relationships, about what you two are allowed to do? Sex doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be missionary. Life once you get married does, like, it's the funniest thing, Hollywood has painted this picture that the Bible has not painted, okay? Because the Bible speaks of marriages being not only a lifelong commitment, but a lifelong friendship and filled with excitement. That's what it's supposed to be. The few examples that you see of people who have been married for 30, 40 years. One of the guests we had on here was Bishop Rufus Turner, and I can't remember, but I'm almost certain he said that he and his wife had been married for like 40 or 45 years, right? They still like each other. And they still have moments of romance and those kind of things. These are things that they do. Like, they enjoy being together in every way. Is that not the marriage that you're looking for? Is that not what you're wanting? You see, when we start to look for the right one, we have to first begin with us, because it's not about the wife, it's about what we bring to the table. Are we financially, are you as gentlemen financially secure to be able to handle a wife and a family and those things? And I understand you've got women's lib going on, and she's making her own and da da da. And I'm not saying that, because Proverbs 31 tells you that she is a wife of noble character. She makes her own money. She has her own stuff. These are things that she has. And those are all facts. They're undeniable facts. But when it's talking about you need to be the leader, how can you lead when you don't have the resources of your own to do that? Because instinctively, a godly man cannot and does not understand how to function when he doesn't have his own, when he's struggling, when he can't figure out what to do for his family, when you guys are not working together in a cohesive unit. These are things that cause you dissonance inside. It causes you to have turmoil and struggles, and to feel as though, or to think that you are not enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough this. I don't have enough that. So deal with that first. You see, finding the right one doesn't often happen when we are devastated, but during the times that it does. So, for those of you who actually are in the process of building with somebody, congratulations. But make sure that that is somebody that you're willing to go the distance with. Sir Richard Branson, I love him, because one of the things that he talks about is the wife that he has. And she and he have been together from the beginning. And it's a great example to look at and to understand that everything you want to build can be built with one person. Alex Spanos was married to his wife. Joe Biden has built a successful life, and he's been married to two women, one who passed away and Dr. Jill, who's there right now. And these men will talk about how they got where they are because of their wives. Joe Biden just recently did a speech about civil rights, and he was talking about how he had gone through. And he how he had gone through his career and the things that happened. And he went home one day and he talked to his wife, and he said, "Here's what's going on, blah, 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 blah." And she's like, "Well, what are you waiting for? Go build it." And he was off. You see, males and females both need each other. They just need each other in different ways. Women don't have a success story without the men behind them. And the men, gentlemen, you don't have a success story without her behind you. So if you miss that part of it, then you get caught in the misunderstanding that one of you or the other is the one who's making all of this happen. But that, in fact, is not true. I want to tell you another story before we move on. And that is the story of a young lady that I once worked with. And she was married to a gentleman. And this man was a mess. And this is going to lead us into why we have to be careful about who we choose. And so he was really good at degrading her, at making her believe that she wasn't bringing anything to the table. And so what would happen is that she would begin to build something. And I want to say that the first thing that she was building with him was something that was directly related to him. And so he needed to be a daily part of it because she was in a realm that she did not know. She had developed a realm because of something that someone had done to her husband. And instead of sitting back and working with her, he would talk about how she wasn't doing this and she wasn't doing that, and she wasn't good at this and she wasn't good at that. And so, what that created between them was this place that neither of them really wanted to be. And so, she got very frustrated with this man because she was just never good enough for him. And so what he left her with was the fact that for him, she was never ever going to be enough. Here's the thing I want you to understand, gentlemen. No matter who your woman is, here is the one key that you must always know about her. She's a multiplier. What you give her, she is naturally designed to multiply. When you give her negativity, you get negativity back, I swear, tenfold. Suddenly, you've got a woman who doesn't respect you. She doesn't like you. You can't do anything right in her eyes. And it's because of what you've given her. And that's the problem that many of you are facing. You're not honoring the way your wife was structured. She didn't structure herself that way, that was her God given gift. So, what is the purpose of multiplication within a husband and wife relationship? Her job by design is to take your vision and help you build it out. She has to be able to multiply, or the two of you will create singular things. The reality is not so. She takes what you see and she blows it up into uh, a a huge company. She makes your kingdom, she takes you from one property to eight properties. She takes you from, one car to 12 cars. That's what women are designed to do. That's what they're designed to do. And when you understand that, here's what's happening. You begin to see her very differently. And you don't have to you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take the Bible's word for it. Go test it. You already have one verification. If she takes one of her eggs and one of your sperm and combines them, what happens? You get a baby. Is that not multiplication? We started with two cells, then you have a whole human who's made of millions of cells. That's multiplication, baby. So, here's what we're going to do. Find something in your life. If you already have a wife, give it to her. Ask her what she would do with it. She doesn't have to go out and do anything. Just let her have it and see what she comes back with. Because what you will find is that your woman is a multiplier. And that thing that you gave her inevitably was multiplied. So I want you to go try this. For the rest of you, here's what I want you to do. Over the course of this next week, start really figuring out what it is that you want from your life. God is giving you so much. He told you in Genesis chapter 2 what Adam's job was. Go out there, be fearless, be unapologetic of the things that you want to do, and go and decide who it is you want to be with this one life you have. If this is all there is, and this is the only time you will be you, how do you want to make it work? How do you want it to end? How do you want to live it? Go see. Over the next week, go experiment. And next week, we'll pick up and drop the second part of finding the right one. I hope you have a great week. Oh, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. We'll see you next week, fellas, and I hope you have a great week.